And for the time, we just give 1 hour, 1 hour to 5 presenters. Thank you. Sorry, 12 minutes for each presenters. No,
Okay, well, my name is Dwi Octalia and I'm from Universitas 11 Maret. This is a mini research that I've done in order to fulfill the thesis fulfillment requirement, I mean. So my title of this preliminary research is the implementation of speak in EFL classroom. What do teachers think? Next, please. So, due to the development of ICT, it is very easy for teachers to gain or to obtain the learning material, including the listening material. They only need to type the intended learning sources in the browse, and then what they're trying to search for will be pop up. And they only need to download every learning material from online sources, such as it could be, for example, in case it is a listening material, and such as BBC, CNN, or even video from YouTube. It is very easy to gain that such kind of online sources. But even though it is very easy to gain the listening material from the online sources, there is no guarantee that may mention this listening material may be appropriate for every situations or even every conditions, or it may cover the student's need. So we may say it that this listening material might be less or lack of universal validity. The other problem that may be faced by the teachers in order to deliver the material for the students, in this case, is still listening material. Where it's this about when they download the listening material from online sources, they may find that this downloaded listening material will not be spoken by the native speaker. So it may make students less exposure to the native-like listening material. That may make them face that may make them feel difficult to comprehend the listening material when it is given the downloaded native material. So, due to this kind of problems, there is a possible solutions. It is called as a program called as TTS or eSpeak in this case. I use eSpeak in this research. So eSpeak is next, please. So this is TTS or text to speech. And in this case or in this research, I use eSpeak. So this TTS may help teachers to convert from a text into a speech. Or we may say that when you type a text in this program, the output of this program will be an audio that can be saved in the format of WAV, or even MP3. So it can be used for the listening activity for your students. Next. This is the, what do we call? This is how the TTS or eSpeak looks like. So there already a chat, a bar space there. You only need to type. There are several, let's call it setting, such as rate and volume. And in this TTS or eSpeak, there are already several native-like speaker installed. So it may come from American accent or even in the British accent, Britain accent. So the only thing you only need to do is only type what you are trying to find out or what you are trying to create, the listening material for your students. And then this program or this DTS will do its job to convert the text you already typed into the audio and will be saved in the web or MP3. Next. So before, for your information, in order to maximize the use of the technology in this case, in my research, I use Google Site to deliver the material. So the procedure will be, there will be two kinds of program in my research. The first is eSpeak or TTS, and the second one is Google Sites. Google Site is one of feature from Google that can be used as the, let's say it is called as the online class. So research questions for my study is what are teachers' perception toward the implementations of eSpeak and Google Sites in EFL classroom? What I'm trying to find out is about the quality of the output from the TTS itself, whether it can be used for the listening material or listening activity or not. And also, it will be more about what is the strength and weaknesses of the eSpeak program. Next, please. The methodology of my research is a qualitative design with a descriptive analysis. And then the sampling method is purposive sampling. In order to find out the appropriate sample or research respondent, I choose several criteria such as they have to be able to browse online sources, they have to be able to operate computer, and also they have an experience in teaching listening by using such kind of software or even already the native like listening material. And the procedure for my research is before I try to collect the data, I give such kind of 2 weeks training for the respondents. And they have to be able to operate the eSpeak first. And then they have to be able to use the Google Sites. And then when they already ready to use those two programs, they will implement it in the classroom. So students also will what we call will involve in this kind of research. But the only thing that I'm trying to find out is about the teachers' perceptions. Next. So from my research, I found that most of the teachers give a positive response. Sorry, I forgot to mention there are 8 EFL teachers from the private English course. And they mentioned that this TTS may give them benefit, such as first, the integration text-to-speech and Google Site help them in preparing material to be delivered in the classroom. When they try to create the listening material, it is very easy since they only need to find out the appropriate text for the students, and then this TTS will convert it just like a native like speaker into the audio. And then the output from the TTS will be delivered to the students by online sources. So when it is very easy for teachers when they cannot, let's say they don't have time in the classroom and they need to deliver the material, they only need to upload the listening material into the Google site, and the students will download it from Google sites. So that's why they say that this is very, this benefit them in terms of delivering the material. Next. And the next positive response is TTS may help their students improving their listening comprehension skill. And by integrating ICT during the learning process, they think that it can boost students' enthusiasm toward the given lessons. Just we can see that, I don't know whether in Java Island will be same with the Sumatra Islands. I'm not sure. So in my city, because I take this in my city, it is very rare to use or to do listening activity. So the listening activity only done by saying the teachers just read the text and then students will listen to the student will listen to the teachers, and then it will be the listening activity. So in this case, when I try to introduce the TTS to the EFL teachers in my city, they mentioned that it is very interesting thing for their students, since it is very first thing that when they try to implement the native like listening material, and it is the first thing experienced by the students, so it may boost their enthusiasm. Thanks. The output of the TTS actually is already native like speaker, especially the pronunciation of every single word. Teachers may choose the speakers, even they may choose the spoken English dialect that may lead to the various type of the audio or output. Just like what I have told you before, in the TTS already installed some native like speaker program. So the pronunciations will be very appropriate or almost correct to the what the native like or the real native like speaker. So it is very what we call in teaching the pronunciation, just like study from Damper et al. In 1988, they mentioned that the pronunciation from the TTS will be 88% correct. And then the output at TTS program corresponded to the classroom needs. Since you teachers can create your own listening material, you must be considerate some considerations of your students' need, for example, or even the syllabus that you use and also the lesson plans. So by using this one, it may make your listening material will correspond the need of your classrooms. Next. And the next, please. So although there are some benefit from the TTS, teachers also found that there are some weaknesses, such as the first one is there is no autocorrect program of the autocorrect writing. So when you did typo, the output of the program will be the wrong pronunciation. So that's the weakness. And the other weakness is TTS cannot produce a good intonations, since it is like native like speaker. So it will not be as natural as human. So there are several parts when you are trying to type in the TTS program. It will be just what we call native like, but the intonation is less natural. Let's say something like that. And the next weaknesses is from the Google side. It is more about practically. When the teacher try to upload the listening material into Google site, they find that it is quite messy. Or we may say that when you're trying to upload the listening material into Google site, you need to upload it first into Google Drive. And then from Google Drive, you need to upload it into Google site. So it kind of to process before you can deliver this listening material for your students. So this DTS actually benefits students and also the teachers, and it can help you to give native-like listening material for your students, but also may train your students to have self-centered, or you may say that independent learning process. But the weaknesses from the TTS also should be what we call have some kind of solutions. Maybe the next research about the TTS could help solve this kind of solutions. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, it's a little bit different from the first speaker that she developed the what is that the program. Here, I would like to ask you firstly, do you know the commonly news in what is that in education, such as curriculum? No, okay. The common news is that from the junior high school to the senior high school, we have to apply K13 curriculum 2013, and from such a many methodology, there is a methodology which is really, or is that really close to to be applied in a reading skill through genre-based approach. Some of you will really familiar with this approach if you are a teacher. But if you are not teacher, I would like to introduce what genre-based approach actually. Okay, at the first time, I do this research because I would like to see, I would like to know whether the genre-based approach is really appropriate to K13 or not. And then the reading skill in K13, we know that in junior high school, in senior high school, they are supposed to master many what, many kinds of genre of the text. For example, describing or description, procedure, narrative, and etc. But they do not know how to say, how to explain what kind of the text. Next, please. Okay, this is about literature review about a genre-based approach. Genre-based approach actually it's come from another city which acquire the student ability in spoken or written skill. For example, in written cycle or spoken cycle. And then there are four stage or four step in applying genre-based approach. This one. The first is building knowledge of the text or BKOF. In BKOF, we know that as a teacher, we have to guide the student to enter our point of view about learning English. For example, in junior high school, the first grade, they are supposed to learn about describing people, and the teacher should guide the student to know what is describing people, how to describe people, etc. And then the next step is modeling of the text, or we can say MOT. In MOT, as a teacher, we have to we have to provide the best text we ever have to give the example to the student, to give the best example to the student that we know as the student, they are the best copier of the teacher. And the next one is joint construction of the genre or joint construction of the text. In joint construction of the text, if it's called by group discussion, when they are divided into some groups, and then they supposed to do the reading text, how to analyze the text, how to answer the text. It's called by joint construction of the text. And the next one is independent construction of the text. In independent construction of the text, it should be individualism. Students by themselves should develop their ability to join construction of the text. This one, the diagram, which one called by BKOF, which one called by MOT, and etc. And the research methodology, we did simple research or mini research in Tegal City. It's called SMP Negeri 2 Suradadi Tegal. The sample is 7 grades of class A and B, and the population is all of the students of the school, especially in 7 grades. And the data collecting technique we use, what is that? It's like post-test, which is ask the student to do the test after joining genre-based approach class. The first is experimental and the second one is control group. And the finding is that in the result tell us when the control group, which is do not apply GPA or genre-based approach, is less motivation, less mark in doing a text. And the experimental text, as the experimental group, there are more increasingly ability in doing reading text. This one, the diagram between experimental group and the control group. Next, please. Yeah, this one I say before the finding and the discussion. Okay, the suggestion and the conclusion that I would like to say is that genre-based approach, we think that it is appropriate to use to develop the curriculum 2013 in the case of junior high school 7 grades. That's all. Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Check. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is a nice occasion that I'd like to present my project. I'm a small project in my class that it is entitled by the use of metacognitive strategies in EFL reading comprehension. Please, next. Yeah, in recent periods of the years, there has been perceptual attention in promoting reading as a significant benefit of language development. Language development for the foreign language. Foreign language learner, according to Susser, Rob, 1990. And then the importance of reading for second language or foreign language learners is to let them as skillful users as the target language. Next. There are many problems that I've observed in my class, especially there are still many students who are low proficient readers and requires for foster their autonomously in reading. And second one, mostly they are in the very low motivation to read books or articles in trained to their comprehension. The third, many students get difficulties in building and relating their background knowledge when they have to find the meaning of the new words and the text. You know that this small project is done for the first semester student. So this is the new students in the first semester, and I think that that reading is very difficult to understand, especially they have to find out some meanings, or they have to face difficult words. For example, that beyond of their proficiency, like Pak Willy says just now. So this is our challenge. As a teachers, especially that we have to develop our students' reading skills, especially in reading comprehension, because reading is very large influence in the worldwide. Next one. The major concern of the present study is to explore the effectiveness of metacognitive strategies instruction on reading comprehension. The result of the current study is indicated that training the students in using metacognitive strategies increase their reading comprehension ability at various cognitive levels. Yeah, you know that based on our experience, that teachers, they even teach students by the classical method. I mean classical. What is it? Some says like that. Students asked to translate in our first language, Indonesian. Yeah, this is the problem. And teachers don't have any ideas about teaching what is the objective of teaching reading comprehension, for example. So we have to develop our understanding to our students that reading is the basic skills they have to master. Yeah, because this is very important. Yeah, because without reading, they know nothing. They know nothing about everything, especially in vocabulary. So we have to develop this pattern or drawbacks, about our students' problem, for example. Okay. Next one. Yeah, this is my theoretical view. Yeah. Metacognitive control, self-regulation can be divided in three points: plan, monitor, and evaluate. By this, we may develop the beliefs, goals, and then attitude and motivation of the students. This is automatic, because we have to train our students by some instruction. What this is? Metacognitive strategies. Yeah, not merely only classical method, asking students to read and then answer the questions, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Next one. Oxford in 1990 defined metacognitive strategies as behavior of learners to plan, arrange, and assess their own learning. Metacognitive reading strategy instruction may improve learners learners' proficiency in reading comprehension. And then it means that learners need to be trained in the use of learning strategies to become autonomous in their learning approach. Now, there are many strategies in reading comprehension. For example, CALA, SQTR, think aloud, or reciprocal teaching, as I know. So there are many others. But here, we would like to improve the cognitive of the students, and then especially metacognitive strategy. Yeah, metacognitive is a kind of monitoring, monitoring how the students' improvement, about the cognitive strategy. So we have to monitor about the improvement of students' comprehension. I will adapt it from, Sore and Motari, metacognitive awareness of reading strategies inventory. Yeah. So what this questionnaires for? It is kind of the questionnaires to monitor the students' comprehension. These questionnaires I will give to my students in the beginning of my study and the end of my study. So I'd like to use the t-test, before and after having metacognitive strategies. There are some 28 or something, sorry. Yeah, there are 28 points, which is divided on 3 points: global reading strategies or group sub-skill, and then problem-solving strategies, and the last is support reading strategies. By this, we may measure the students' awareness in our reading comprehension. Yes, sorry. Yeah, metacognitive strategy instruction. Yeah. Metacognitive strategy instruction makes learners aware of the purpose of skills and help them use the strategy to activate, monitor, regulate, and make sense out of the text. It also creates an awareness of the function of utility reading in the specific context. Sore and Mohtari explain also that comprehension between learners, correlation between learners' reading comprehension ability and metacognitive reading strategy is vital and important for reading procedures. Metacognitive reading strategy awareness is higher order performance elements and intense planning for learning, monitoring, clarifying, and mediation causes comprehension failure or evaluating the success of learning activity. That is the strategy of self-planning. Yeah. And then self-monitoring, self-regulating, self-questioning, and self-reflecting. With this, we have some conclusion. Many students of EFL have major problem with reading comprehension even after years of learning of English language. Researchers have shown that students' awareness of their own reading comprehension process can be enhanced through systematic direct instruction. Metacognitive reading awareness has become one of the effective ways to facilitate students' reading comprehension in the field of foreign language studies. Studies on metacognitive reading awareness tended to make lists of strategies and other features presumed to be necessary for all language teaching students. I think that's all my presentation. Thanks for your cooperation. Have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you. And for the audience, is there any question?
Okay, thank you. My name is Budiasi from EIN Surakarta. I would like to know more for the second presenter. Yeah, I think teaching students with genre-based approach is quite frustrating, because sometimes the teacher has to go back to the first step and then go to the next step and then back again to the second step. And they have to prepare the students to be ready in writing. Do you also, did you also experience the same thing, that you get any frustrating condition when you teach your students? Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu. For the genre-based approach in written cycle, actually the first time, really, it's frustrating, really. Why? Because we have to, we have to make sure that the student are ready to learn, are ready to know what they have to learn. But as long as we speak, as long as we explain quite a little, slowly, make sure that they understand step by step, I think it is really fun to do. In my school, I teach in vocational high school in field of flight attendant. I use this one to my student, and they feel fun. They feel fun. They feel it's really asks them to think deeply, think more and more. That's my experience. This is maybe the second or the third research. I think that the first, it's really frustrating. The first, the second, it's hard to do. But the second, the third, and the next, it's really fun to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, my question is directed to the first speaker. Yeah, I'm interested in using DTS. Yeah, and this is real question. kindly demonstrate on how to implement TTS, yeah, to produce materials for listening class. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say sorry because I don't find my laptop, and actually the TTS is installed in my laptop. So I'd like to give you the procedure to use TTS first. Okay, is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're trying to use this TTS, you need to download it first. You can type in the browser e-speak, e strip speak, and then because it is very freely downloaded, you just download it without pay anything, and there is no limitation time for it, expire date. I mean, so when you already download the TTS or e-speak, you have to install it in your laptop. And when it is already installed in your laptop, it will just, can you help me? The- okay. So just like what I have shown to you before, there is a bar there, space bar. Sir, excuse me. Uh, my, yes, implementation. No, not mine. Balik. The big document. Yes. Can you see the picture? Yes. So actually, this is how e-speak looks like. You see here, there is a white space there, and enter your text in this space. So when you already have the text, I mean the text that you have that you are trying to convert into a speech or into listening material, and then you only have to copy paste the text in this field. And then when you want to try to know whether this program already spoke appropriate or not, you can choose this tab, Speak WAF. So there is Speak WAF to evaluate the output of the TTS. And then if it is already correct or appropriate with what you are trying to create, and then you can choose Save to WAF. So it is already in the form of audio, but still WAV. So actually, just like for your informations, when you are trying to choose this e-speak for your listening material, you need to pay attention to the intonation and also the system of typing system. I mean, don't make any error. And the other is when you're trying to create a question statement, the intonation will just like less natural actually. But when it is called, when it is come to the yes or no questions, it is already native like or natural intonations. So just like WH questions, so sometimes it less natural. So the actually in creating the listening material, except using this, I also use WebPad sound, the additional program besides this one. This one is very appropriate, especially for monologue. But if it is in the dialogue, we may say that we have such kind of more effort. And in order to make it more interesting, I use WebPad sound. WebPad sound is like what do we call? Music editor. So so that's why in my research I ask or I expect my respondents to be able to use or operate computer and also operate software. So is it clear? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the presenters and welcome to the next session. That's the session, that is the second session. The rule is as the same as the previous session, which is 1 hour to 5 presenters. And for this session, let us invite the speaker. The first speaker is Antonio Suratno, and the second, Lia Eliani Sukawati. The third, Francisca Marcela Hambur. The fourth, Siti Tarwia. And the last, Budi Purnomo. Presenters, time is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. Uh, Hello, my name is Eliani Sukawati, and I'm from UNS Solo. And now I want to present my research, the titled "The Enactment of Portfolio Assessment in Teaching Writing." Okay, next. Okay. From the introduction or background, why I choose this about the authentic assessment, because in curriculum 2013 emphasize and improving the hard skill and soft skill, including aspect of attitudes, skill, and knowledge. And what emphasized in the curriculum 2013 is related to the assessment. Okay. As we know, to know the student performance, the teacher meets. Okay. To know the student performance, the teacher needs to implement the assessment. And in curriculum 2013, the assessment used is an authentic assessment. Next. Okay. We move to writing because this is one of my subject, writing. Writing here is the difficult skill in English because writing is complex. As we know that the student in Indonesia, many of the students lack of vocabulary, so the student will difficult to write what they think or what they want to share in writing. And the difficulties are not only in generating and organizing idea, but also in translating these ideas into a readable text. And a teacher should know and understand the appropriate approach that can be used in teaching writing so that the learners are easily able to produce a good writing. And the teacher needs to assess, and he must choose one of type of authentic assessment, which recommends in curriculum 2013. Next. Okay. Based on curriculum 2013, the teacher can apply portfolio assessment because the portfolio assessment is the suitable one to assess the student's ability in writing, because it consists of any form of assessment in which the student construct a response orally or in writing. And the student can make writing sample, and they are asked to generate writing sample to meet a number of different purposes. Next. Okay, we move to literature review. Um, it is a portfolio assessment is a systematic collection of student work that is analyzed to show progress over time with regard to instructional objective. And portfolio assessment by Vigents aims to test students' skill in displaying knowledge and skills in realistic situation and context. Next. Okay. According to Epstein, 2005, portfolio can be divided into two categories. The first is process-oriented portfolios, which tell the story of a student growth over time. And second is product-oriented portfolios, which are a collection of a student-based work. Okay, next. Okay, here types of portfolio assessment. The first is showcase portfolio. It can be showcase portfolio. It is used to display a student's best work to parents and school administrations. And second is collection portfolio. It contains all of a student's work that show how a student deals with daily class assignment. And the third, assessment portfolio. It is focused reflections of specific learning goals that contain systematic collection of student works, student self-assessment, and teacher assessment. Okay, next. And we move to research method. This research was conducted at SMA Negeri 2 Semarang, and in this context, the researcher explored in depth the implementation of portfolio assessment in writing, teaching, and the teacher perceptions and students' response, but the portfolio assessment. And the research data in this study consists of some sources, information, portfolio assessment practice in writing, teaching in 10th grade of SMA Negeri 2 Semarang in the academic 2017-2018. Next. Okay, in the research method, in getting the informations, the researcher take event, informant, and documents, and in collecting the data, the researcher do interview, classroom observation, and documentations. And to get the accuracy of data, triangulation, the researcher used triangulation to check the validity of the data. Next. Okay. And the data that are collected was analyzed by using descriptive qualitative method, the qualitative method. And the data analysis used the Miles and Habermas models consisting 3 steps. The first is data reduction, second is data display, and drawing, conclusion, and verification. Okay, next. Okay, and in finding and discussion, the first is research finding. The teachers still took important parts in the class. It means in the classroom, the teacher still become the center of the class. So the students prefer to silent, and then the teacher more explain, and the students just silent as usual. And the second is teacher because of that the teacher choose to change the policy based on their classroom. Okay. On their classroom. And the third, teacher prepared to kind of scoring instrument, scoring rubric, and scoring form. Next, where the scoring rubric were used to score student tasks, and the scoring instrument were used to compile the score for the report card. Next. Okay, but based on the interview result, the teacher perception is if there is so many assessment in the class, he thinks that the students will be more understand but the material that given. And next, okay, based the interview result with the students, I take the students randomly. Students A said that the assessments are so many and it creates burden for the student because he thought that teacher only focus on how the students able to apply the English basic skill, listening, reading, speaking, and writing rather than the material. And student F said that the student comprehensive in the material is more important rather than the assessment because she thought that the final test is the form of multiple choice. So she concluded that the assessment had less correlation with the final test. And the student N said the assessment makes the students understand how to apply English in the various skills. The students not only understand the theory but also apply the English language as the one of skill that must be comprehended to face the global competition. However, some confusion still came up for her, such as she still did not understand how he make the text, how he makes the text coherence. Okay, next. In the research finding, in implementation of portfolio assessment in writing teaching, the English teacher of the 10th grade students of the school has implemented the curriculum by put more some revision, such as the use of authentic assessment, including performance assessment and another assessment, for example, the reading assessment or writing assessment, especially portfolio assessment. And the teacher is developing the learning activities, the worksheet, and the assessment were mostly not only taken from the book. Okay, next. Okay. And then the process of implementing authentic assessment in English instruction based on curriculum 2013 still did not run effectively because there is problem with the class size. As we know that if the students, the number of the students high in the classroom, so the method that used in the classroom will be less effective. And the student feel that portfolio assessment gives them burden. If there is another subject, give them less assessment too. Okay, next. And in conclusion, the implementation of portfolio assessment is less effective in the class. The fact that the students get difficulties in the class, especially the lack of vocabulary, must be fixed by the teacher. And the second, the teacher should not only focus on how the student perform in writing, able to make them understand in productive skill, but also the process to make the clear and coherent text must be emphasized in the class. And the third, the teacher cannot focus to maintain the student and it's not effective to monitor the student's ability in writing. Okay. I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. My topic today will be vowels and diphthongs error analysis of random secondary students of Semarang. So here, this is a phonology study. I want to give kind of an insight towards the teacher, especially when teaching pronunciation towards students, so that you, as a teachers, will have more understandings that as Japanese speakers, which the first language is Japanese, it will influence in such complex way the pronunciation of English. First of all, we must know that pronunciation of English is influenced by differences of geographical areas where English is spoken. especially the first language of speaker. So here we are in Indonesia, we have many local languages such as Japanese and Sundanese, but most of all here, the first language is Japanese. So here in my research, I took two students from secondary schools, both of them in the third grade, which has Japanese as their first language. So this is not comparing with Indonesia as their first language, but rather with Japanese vowel system. Next. And there are some previous studies which lead me to do this kind of study. First of all, I want to mention that phonetics that are difficult to be lost by Japanese students such as the and the. So it is likely that in Japanese, especially that the consonants and vowel systems are very different in English. Therefore, in the second point, that the problem with diphthongs were the monophthongization of the sound. So most of the diphthongs in English were kind of monophthongized by the Japanese speakers, if they talk in English, of course. And also there are four kinds of phonic interference produced by the learner, such as substitutions, under differentiation, over differentiation, and reinterpretation. Here in my study, I found substitution and under differentiation. If I may explain that substitutions is when the speaker substitutes certain sound with another sound, while under differentiation also substitute with another sound, but under differentiation is substitute certain sound with another sound, which has close place in place of articulation. And then next. And here my statement of the problems. First, I found the vowels and diphthongs phonetic errors what are produced by random secondary students in Semarang. And then the second, I also investigated the vowel sounds, which I have stated there, E, A, and U, that influence their Japanese pronunciation in English. Note that these, how many? Six vowels are found in Japanese. So this is like A is not found in Japanese, but A belongs to English. So we will see how Japanese speakers, when they say A sounds. And the third statement of the problem is how diphthongs and vowel sounds, A and O, are monophthongized. I will show it later in the findings. But it is clear that most of the diphthongs in English, where it is when it is pronounced by Japanese speakers, is going to be monophthongized. And then the factors which influence, what are the factors which influence English phonetics errors? It will be related to language interference, which I have stated earlier. It is related to substitution and also under differentiations. And here my theoretical framework, I take from ELLiC opinion, especially that ELLiC described that second language learning is a process which is experienced by the person who studies language other than one first language. And so we also note in the study of second language, there is language transfers and therefore there must be language interference too. Transfer is defined by Odlin as the influence resulting from similarities and differences between the target language and any other language. So here English as the target language and Japanese as the first language. The transfer will happen between Japanese and English. And there are positive and negative transfer. Negative transfer is assumed by ELLiC as errors, while positive transfers as facilitation. While my study is focused as errors as the negative transfers. And acquisition of the phonological system of second language is a continual process of restructuration of the mother tongue phonological system. So here we see the errors not as errors in the common sense, but rather as a continual process of restructuralization of the phonological system of the first language. So it is not a process anymore, but rather as a transfer. And interference is something which is becoming obstacles in the process of transfer. And the next. And here I have enclosed the Javanese vowel system. As you can see, that systematic phonetic representation and underlying representation here is proposed by Howard in 1999. And next, this is I explained about the diagram I showed before, that for Japanese speakers, the vowel space for A was nearly identical with the vowel space for E. The vowel space for O was nearly identical with the vowel space for U. What does this mean? This means that there is a tendency that usually for Japanese speaker, and A and E will be replaced by one another in speaking. And O and U also will be replaced by one another in speaking. And the second, that Japanese speakers often misidentify the Indonesian vowel A as E and Indonesian vowel O as U. So this means that if you hear your students, especially with the Japanese as their first language, when they say so, most of them will say so, not so, but so, not no, but no. This is because O and U has the same, not the same, but kind of, they are near in the place of articulation. So this is called under differentiation. With the vowels which are near will be replaced, substituted each other, or will be deleted if it is in vowel clusters such as diphthongs. My research is for that. And then the next. Okay, so this is the differences between English vowels and Japanese vowels. As English vowels has more complex system, they have more vowels, more sounds, which Japanese lacks. For example, the sound L, such as in animal, and the sound S, such as in bed. Well, in my research, that the students with their Japanese accent, they often refer A with A such as in bed, and A such as in animal. But when the Japanese speaker said animal, they will say animal. That is because A and A also have, both of them are very close in their place of articulation. They are both back vowel and they are both low in their place of articulation. So they substitute each other. This phenomena, according to Sen, is called as under differentiation. And then the next. Okay, so this is the figure. You can see that the sounds of A, such as in then, is close to the sounds of A, such as in act, in sense that both of them are low vowel. But A is kind of more in the front, and A is in the back. So this my research will study about this. And then the next. Okay, this is theoretical framework about distinctive features according to the Sen. Actually, there are 5, but in my study, I only focus on 3 because my study only about vowel and diphthongs, that is binary features, place of articulations, and body of tongues features. For major class and minor features usually will be discussed when we discuss consonant. And then the next. Okay. In the vowel classification, the parameters I use here are high vowel, mid vowel, low vowel, and the front and backness, and rounded and unrounded. And about the binary features, there are only 2 degrees, that is plus and minus. And Sein also make classification of vowel into high and low. So what I use here is kind of high and low, and plus and minus. And then the next. Next. Okay, this is the example, yeah. The example of some errors I found, but I did not state all of them here. This is just the example how I tabulate the pure vowels E, E, and A. And then the next. This is still pure vowels, sounds O, A, and U. And then the next. Now this is diphthongs. As you can say that, such as in the sound 8, yeah, both speaker cannot produce vowel clusters. Vowel clusters means more than one vowel uttered in a single utterances. So most speakers, especially the Japanese, all of them are Japanese, yeah, have Japanese as their first language. They only utter at, not eight, but at. And break, they utter break, not break, but break. Both of them are Japanese. As I understand it, the Japanese speakers usually never produce vowel clusters, especially in diphthongs. So most of the diphthongs are monophthongized, especially if the place of articulation are close, such as in O and U, in A and E. The place of articulation are close, so they are monophthongized. And then next, also it is the percentage. The highest I mean is gotten by the sound A, because most of sounds A here is replaced by sounds A, not A, but A. And then the next. Okay, so here the analysis here, I can analyze the tendency. Actually, this is the use of 10 distinctive features. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, let me deliver the summary of my research report. The title is Coaching-Centered Coaching toward the implementation of learner-centered learning in the context of Indonesian 2013 curriculum. Okay, here is the outline of my presentation. The first one is introduction, and then objective, method, and the last one is finding. Okay, let me start from introduction. Why did I conduct this kind of research? Yeah, because the first one is that the teacher need to be competent. Yeah, the teachers need to be competent. And it is stated, yeah, in the law number 20, 2003 and 3, that education must be based on standard of national education. Okay, and then we know that in standards of national education, yeah, there are 4 standards that are tightly related to teachers' profession. Yeah, they are content standard, assessment standard, and then process standard. Yeah, and the last one is, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, sorry. And then the next one is law number 14, 2005. Yeah, and it is stated that teacher must have 4 competencies. Yeah, interpersonal, and then pedagogical, professional, and social competencies. And the last one is as stated in Permendiknas number 16, 2007. Yeah, it is about standards of academic qualification and teacher competence. Okay, if a certain teaching learning process is supported by a competent teacher, yeah, it is expected that it will create positive learning environment, yeah, in terms of physical environment, psychological environment, instructional environment. Okay, if this kind of environment is created, it will create positive attitude in learning within the students. So finally, the result is the success in learning. To gain the competence of teacher, coaching here is needed to build skill, will, knowledge, and capacity. Okay, next one. Okay, here is the definition of coaching. Coaching is the activity as a kind of focused professional dialogue, which is aimed at aiding the coaches in developing certain professional skills to improve the teacher's teaching repertoire. And the activity of coaching here comprises four activities. The last one is promoting professional dialogue on teaching issues that are of interest of the coaches or the teachers, and then planning, developing, and evaluating teaching activities in a collaborative way. And then the third one is facilitating experimentation and reflection. And then the last one is fostering reflection that will help effective teachers when planning and evaluating their teaching by discussing pedagogical issues in their teaching. Okay, and this study was conducted in MTSN 2 Semarang. Why it was conducted there? Because this school had big number of students, yeah, around 944 with 28 classes. So that if this school is supported by competent teacher, it is expected that it will produce competent students or qualified graduate. Okay. So, and the objective of this presentation is to describe the materials and the procedure of implementation of coachee-centered coaching, which stimulate coaches to implement learner-centered learning. Okay. Okay, method. Yeah, participant, as I mentioned before, that it was conducted in MTSN 2 with 6 English teachers, and it was designed qualitatively, and the data collection used is documentation, and then the second one is observation, and the last one is interview. Okay, here are the materials, covered in coaching activity. The first one is learning principles and activity-based learning. The second one is teaching approaches, and then assessing EFL learning, and the last one is process skill. For teaching approaches here, the coaching program emphasized on the approaches which are suggested by 2013 curriculum. Yeah, they are genre-based approach, and then problem-based, task-based learning, project-based learning, and inquiry discovery learning. And for assessing EFL learning, the coaching program only focused on worksheet and scoring rubric because it was based on the observation of the teaching learning process that was conducted before the coaching program was run. Yeah, it was got information, data that the teachers still find difficulties in creating appropriate worksheet and then also scoring rubric. And then it was also supported by the data got from focus group discussion. And then for process skill, there are 3 components. Yeah, the first one is planning with 43 indicators. And then the second one is implementing stage with 38 indicators. And the last one is assessing and evaluating with 17 indicators. All indicators, were based on Permendikbud number 16, 2007, about teacher qualification and academic competence. One of the competencies is pedagogical competence. And then it was also based on process standard of 2013 curriculum. Okay, here is the procedure. So there was fun before the coaching program was conducted. The researcher observed the teaching learning process done by 6 teachers, yeah, and then based on the first observation, it was continued by conducting focus group discussion to identify the teacher's need, yeah, and then after that, after the needs of the student were identified, yeah, and then the materials of the coaching program were prepared, and then they were presented in the presentation stage, and the presentation stage here used some approaches which are suggested in the 2013 curriculum. So while the coachee presented the material, the coachee also modeled on how to implement the approaches which are suggested in 2013 curriculum. Okay, and then it was continued by second teaching, yeah, which was the implementation of the materials, yeah, and then reflection, yeah. 6 teachers gathered in the same room, and then they shared their experiences during teaching learning process, and then the other teachers will give some suggestions or feedback. And the same thing was continued, yeah, after having the third teaching. And finally, in the fourth teaching, the teacher's pedagogical competence was measured and compared with the first teaching. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, audience. I would like to present result of my small-scale research entitled Teaching English for Specific Purposes through Task-Based Approach in Hospitality College. Next. As we know that speaking, teachers and students find many difficulties, like the lack of attention, and they have other activities excluding the teaching process, and also the class is boring. Next. Also about the contents of course books, most of them are not specific for tourism program in this program, and the method also doesn't motivate the interaction between students and lecturers. Next. Yeah, so the lecturer needs a method of teaching which are creative, innovative, and adapt distinction teaching method to meet the specific goal. The goal is to prepare graduates to be ready to compete in the workforce. Other facts is that during the internship program, there are still many complaints from the supervisors and also from the guests related to the student poor ability in using English for oral communication. Next. Next, please, Leah. Next. Yeah, so we have formulated 2 problems. Number 1 is this approach effective strategy for teaching English for specific purposes. And number 1 is the student competency of ESP improved at the end of learning teaching process. Next. So I adapt a theory from ELLiC related to the focus on communication and conveying messages about this approach. And the other one is also from ELLiC with focus that this approach is to function participant as language users rather than language learners in using communicative processes as those incorporated in real-world activities. Next. So this is the steps. There are 6 stages. Number 1 is pre-task. In this stage, the lecturer introduces the topics and gives the student clear instructions on what they will have to do. The second one is the task, meaning that the students complete a task in pairs or groups using the language resources that they have as lecturer monitors and offers encouragement. Stage 3 about the planning. In this stage, students prepare a short oral or written report to tell the class what happened during their task. Number 4 is report. Student report back to the class orally or read the written report. Step number 5, please. Analysis. The lecturer highlights relevant parts from the text of the recording from the students to analyze. And the last one is practice. The lecturer selects language areas to practice based upon the needs of the student and what emerged from the task and report basis. Next. This is the materials of ESP. That is the conversation between tourists and tourism service providers in the activities of handling reservation and doing activities during tourist staying in Indonesia until checking out. In details, next, the panels are from handling reservation, meeting guests at the airport, providing information upon arrival on the way to hotel, handling check-in, and handling telephone inquiries, handling complaint, serving meals at hotel restaurant, and handling checkout. Next. Next. This is the method of study about the type of research, the time, the location, the research subject, and the technique for collecting data. Next. Findings. Yes. So from this research, the finding is that there are some advantages of this approach, like free of language control, natural context, and also more varied exposure to language with this approach. Next. Yes, the language explored arises from the student needs, and it is a strong communicative approach where students spend a lot of time for communicate, and it is an enjoyable and motivating approach or method. Next. Well, so this research has been able to answer the problem formulation. Number 1, this approach is a good method for teaching ESP in hospitality college. It gives students the opportunity to demonstrate how to use English in a real life, as if in tourism industry situation, and make them focus more on communication skills. And the second conclusion is that the analysis has indicated that lecturers and students' perceptions prove that TBA is a good model for teaching ESP. Moreover, the task-based approach has proven successful to improve the student competency of English for serving guests at the end of learning teaching process. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, give applause for all the presenters and for the audience. Is there any question? No? No. Okay. Thank you very much and give applause for all presenters and sorry for the inconvenience. And now, considering our delay schedule, so I will offer you to continue the presenting or break to take a break. And we will continue after 15 minutes. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.